Always got their guy. As we are about to get into some Kings talk, ESPN.com, Chris, actually giving the Kings a little bit of love, I'd say, anytime you're not in the play. And I think that's a little bit of love, especially in this West, but you got the exact numbers for us.
Yeah. So as we know, the Kings over under from the Vegas side is 45.5. And a lot of debate has been going back and forth. 46. I'm sorry, 46.5. And there's been a lot of debate on, is that disrespectful? Do the Kings, who won 46 games last year, how much better are they this year? Are they even better? And can they get to that 48 win mark again? Well, I'll tell you this, ESPN.com doesn't have the Kings reaching 48 wins, which you might initially say, well, that's just, again, another national media site that is downplaying the Kings' success. However, they still have the Kings as a 6 seed with 47 wins predicted in their most recent column. They have the Kings actually listed in the contender tier of the Western Conference. They split the Western Conference up into 3 different groups: the contenders, the play-in group, and the bottom 5. We'll get into the bottom 5 in a second, as there is a team in there that I think a lot of Kings fans will love to see. However, let's go through the contenders first. OKC, they have predicted as 57 wins as the number 1 seed. Minnesota, the number 2 seed with 54 wins. Dallas, the number 3 seed with 52, and Denver with 52 as the 4 seed. And then the Phoenix Suns slip in right above the Kings with 49 wins in this ESPN.com prediction. And then the Sacramento Kings, again, still in the contender tier of this article, 47-35. And their only little write-up for the Kings, as they kind of explain the entire contenders, they say rounding out the top 6 are 2 teams who have new looks in 24-25 for different reasons. The Suns hope for improved health from their big 3 of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, who shared the court for just 41 games last season. And we talked a lot about that during last year, that the Suns kept their head above water, even though the 3 of those guys felt like they never played together on the same night all year. They then write, the Kings, meanwhile, added all-star DeMar DeRozan, who joins De'Aaron Fox to create one of the most clutch backcourts in the entire league. That is the only write-up that they have on the Kings. So at the very least, you can read into that. And this is written by ESPN staffers, not just a single ESPN member. It's from the entirety of their basketball staff. And so, yeah, they do have good feelings about the Kings. Obviously, we know that a lot of writers haven't been as high on the DeMar DeRozan edition, thinking that it could lead to more ball stopping and just less good play for the Sacramento Kings, especially on the defensive end. ESPN.com clearly not feeling that way. In this article, in the play-in group, they have the New Orleans Pelicans, 46 wins predicted. The Golden State Warriors are predicted as the 8th seed at 45 wins. I think that's a little bit high, but it is a tight margin of error, as they have the Memphis Grizzlies and the Houston Rockets rounding out the play-in, both with 44 wins. And for those keeping track at home, that means that both LA teams are predicted to be on the outside looking in the bottom 5. ESPN.com predicts that the Lakers will finish 44-38 as the 11 seed, and the LA Clippers will finish 43-39. 2 teams finishing above 500 and not making the playoffs at all. Again, really does speak to how deep the Western Conference can be, but you also love to see potential for the Lakers to not make the playoffs. I'm not super surprised by the Clippers with them losing Paul George and them relying so much on Kawhi, but seeing the Lakers in the bottom 5, a little bit shocking there.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit later about the report. The Lakers are already eyeing Luka, and that's part of the reason they're trying to keep trying to keep their assets for whenever LeBron is done. But yeah, I mean, it is surprising that the Lakers just haven't done anything. They have not done anything this offseason. And they're, we know the price tags on a lot of these players, the Cam Johnsons of the world. Yeah. A lot of these guys, the prices never dropped, and they didn't have to drop, right? The Nets weren't in a rush to deal anybody. And really, the Lakers, everybody thought that they were going to be very desperate, right? And when that whole thing came up about Jeremy Grant and how I think somebody inside the Lakers said, yeah, the Blazers are crazy if they think they're getting 2 first-rounders. And the Blazers said, okay, then we're crazy. Then don't get Jeremy Grant because we don't necessarily want to deal him. You are the team, like you said, Chris, with the Lakers and the Warriors. You are the team trying to beat Father Time, right? You are the one on the timeline. No, we're not doing anything. So it's really up to you. And the Lakers, to me, it's hard. To this day, it is still hard to see them just not doing anything before the season starts. And then I just think the trade deadline, and we've talked about this before, and we just saw this happen really for one of the first times, I feel like, with the Mavs, how everybody they got at the trade deadline, they hit. They hit on them. But most of the time, you're not going to switch up your starting lineup towards the end of the season and take a huge swing and have it work out for you. So it's hard for me to think that the Lakers are just going to try to survive and then get into a mode where they're chasing.
Right.
And then you're even more. When are they going to be more desperate, now or when they're currently the 11 seed and everybody says it's still two
lapped.
Right. Yeah. It's still 2 first rounders for Jeremy Grant. So I have no clue what they're doing, but as far as the Kings are concerned, I don't really have a problem with the writers putting them as a 6 seed with 47 wins. I think that from assuming health with everyone, that probably makes the most sense to me. And I know we're right there as far as the Nuggets are concerned and the Mavericks. I just think between one of those teams is not going to be a 3 or a 4 seed. I don't know which one, but I just can't see both of those teams being 3-4.
Agreed. Yeah. And I think it's Denver. I mean, I have really feel passionately about Denver going under on their win-loss over under. I just think losing KCP is huge. I think, Jokic is another year older. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing at all, but just the more weight that you want him to carry for the team, I think it's obviously going to be tougher and tougher for him to do. Jamal Murray looked like trash during the Olympics. I don't know what to do about that information. And defensively, I mean, I just think that they're going to be a lot worse than they've been in the past. And I don't know how they're going to solve that. I mean, the West continues to get better, and I don't think the Nuggets got better at all this offseason. And, I do think a team like Dallas, I kind of feel like a lot of people are overrating them. I think a lot of people are taking their postseason success and trying to predict that into the future. They're fine. They are a scary team. They're definitely one of the best 6 teams in the Western Conference. I'm just not very confident that they're going to be fighting for the top seeds like this suggests. I think that they're still going to run into their fair share of problems. Kyrie Irving was suspiciously healthy and not a problem last season in general. I don't know how long that'll last. Luka, I don't know if you saw over the weekend, you see that video of Gordon Dragic's farewell game where Jokic is throwing self lobs and Chris Bosh is out there playing. Luka looks like he's in off-season shape, is what I would say. All the weight that Zion apparently lost, he transferred over to Luka because he looks incredibly out of shape, which is completely different than the last time we saw him at the end of the season. People were talking, oh my God, if Luka can look like this for his entire career, look out. And it seems like he's kind of fallen back off the wagon there in terms of his conditioning. So I just feel like the Kings are a very, very healthy team. In terms of like their aspirations. DeMar DeRozan, 35 years old, never really had a super deep playoff run. He's been incredibly healthy just throughout his career. It wouldn't surprise me if the Kings surprise a lot of people and even play better than the number 6 seed. And I do think Phoenix is a good shout to be in the top 5. I definitely think last year was about as bad as it's going to get.
Right.
I could see a Minnesota type, maybe not that extreme of a leap, but in the same way Minnesota looked rough that first year after the Gobert trade. And then obviously they did what they did last year. It really wouldn't surprise me if Phoenix kind of has I guess I'll call it a version of a last dance because I don't know how much longer KD can really play at this level. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Phoenix is a really, really tough out this year.
Who would you be more confident in to get their second ring? Jokic or Giannis?
Probably Giannis. I would say Giannis.
Because he's in the East?
I just think that his situation's a little bit better, and I am also part of the population that thinks Jokic is going to retire by the time he's 34. He just doesn't seem to love NBA like
kind of feel like Giannis might retire by the time he's 34 too. I mean, what more does he have left to kind of prove at this point? He already talked about kind of wanting to retire in 2020 when everything was getting real messy for him. I don't think Giannis has that many years left in the league.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question because they both just randomly got their ring. You know what I mean? And I'm not high on the Nuggets. I've told you multiple times. And the Bucks got Damian Lillard, but nobody seems to care.
Sure.
And the whole thing, you know what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of the Jets getting Aaron Rodgers. It was the Jets, all they need is a quarterback. All they need is a quarterback. They got the defense, they got the offense, they get their quarterback, and just nobody's really talking about the Jets. And I get it. Damian Lillard, they were both injured, really. Yeah. The Bucks, Damian Lillard needs to be in a winning situation. All this whole thing happened, and then you're just not as good. And it is an East where it's floor, and I would say maybe it's ceiling, both getting higher. I mean, you do have Paul George now back in the East
for sure.
with the Sixers. You got the Celtics, obviously.
Yeah, the Knicks.
So I don't know if the Knicks as well. If you're making me choose, you said Giannis.
Yeah, I think the East is easier too.
I think it's probably Giannis, but I don't feel very confident that either of them will get another one, to be honest with you.
I mean, it also wouldn't surprise me if Giannis leaves that situation at some point. Again, I would think that Jokic he just doesn't seem very interested in the politics of the NBA either. And I don't think he's going to get super involved in trade requests and demanding out. I think if that situation spoils in an appropriate amount of time, I think that I think that there's reason to believe that he would potentially call it quits and just, be happy with his horses and all that stuff.
He's 29.
The Giannis stuff, I haven't seen any of the stuff Kyle's referring to. I mean, I just don't know if there's enough actual real breadcrumbs to suggest that Giannis would retire before his body gives out on him, or before he's, 37, 38, before his skill kind of deteriorates.
They're both 29, by the way.
That feels about right. I mean, but Giannis has just also been in the league for so long at this point that, it feels like he's been here forever. But no, I mean, I definitely think Giannis probably has the better track. And let's not forget Damian Lillard last year was traded a couple days before the season even started. So I think it's a bit unfair to try and judge what he's going to be for that Bucks team based off of last year, where he just kind of got shotgunned together. And let's not forget, they fired their head coach, like a month and a half into the season, and then bring in Doc Rivers. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Bucks are a lot better this year than they were last year.
Hey, just blow it up. Bucks, blow it up and get Bobby Portis to Sacramento. That's all I care about. That's all I care about. I tried this weekend again.
Let it fly.
I tried the trade generator, and it just still won't work.
Haven't changed.
It still will not work. Coming up next, we have the most underrated and overrated Kings of all time, and Whitey and Drapes revealing their top 40. They're starting to reveal all of it, and we have some honorable mentions that we will go over. Stiles Watkins, Sactown Sports.